Good evening and welcome to this week's BizSmart webinar. Our weekly webinars are aimed to provide advice and share knowledge on key business topics and specialist areas. Our host today is BizSmart Select member Les Guttridge from 101 System Works, here to talk to us about Microsoft Mail Merge. Before we start the webinar, can I ask you to use the question mark function on your screen to post any questions that you may have, and Les will do his best to answer them all at the end of the session. Okay, thank you, Les. Over to you.
Thanks, Caroline. Evening, everybody, and welcome to this session, which is all about, as Caroline said, it's all about MS Word and how to perform mail merges. This can be a difficult problem, and I get loads of questions about it, so I hope what follows will sort a few things out for you. Once you've set up your mail merge, it can save you a huge amount of time and paper, and you can really impress everybody, even yourself sometimes, with the results. When you receive the information, the pack that goes with this webinar, have a read it through, and if there are any problems, then you're very welcome to drop me a line and sort them out if it doesn't hit the nail on the head. So what is mail merge? Well, often you want to send out a huge number of letters with the same basic text, but to loads and loads of people. So that's the sort of thing that you can do. It's a letter. Maybe also you want to do a mail merge email. It's very similar to what I described about the letter, so you can do mail merges as well through email. You can also do address labels. Basically, a mail merge consists of having two documents. There's what we call the main document, and this document contains the static text plus lots of what are properly called fields, but you can think of them as being hotspots, which hold variable data like the different people's names or other information, which like address or other things that you might want to have being variable in the letter itself. That letter demands contact with something called the data source. In Word, they call it the recipient list. And that is a separate document, which might be a Word document where all the information is in a table with different headings, and the headings of the table will actually act as the field names. Or you might have already typed up your information in Excel, or you might have your information in an Access database file. But I think it's actually easier if you set up your recipient list, your data source, in advance, if it's a table in Excel. I really prefer it that way. You seem to have a lot more control over it. And then you connect this to the main document via the main mail merge helper in Microsoft Word. So before I say any more, I'm actually going to switch over to seeing the Word screen, and here we go. And I'm just going to give myself a new piece of paper. And to be honest, if you're going to do mail merge, then you really ought to set up your information in as I described earlier, either as an Excel spreadsheet or as a table in Word. I'm just going to open a prepared database just to show you the sort of things that you need to do. So excuse me one moment while I open the being. And here we go. So here we are. I've got a few columns. You can have what you like. As you can see, the usual suspects for names and addresses. I've got one for email should I actually want to connect this information to a mail merged email. And I've got this for a reason. I'll show you what the reason for that is in a moment. But yes, here we go. All of these emails, incidentally, they're made up. So if I fire off an email in a minute, it'll come back to me and tell me I'm an idiot for trying to send to somebody who doesn't exist. But anyway, so you type up your information like this. It's a good idea to make the top line of your table to be an obvious heading line, so that you've got the information and the field names standing out, so that you can see what's what. But in a minute, Word will actually pick up that you are connecting to these to this table and with this set of field names. So if you don't close down your data source before you start the mail merge process in Word, then you may get an error message to say this file is already open. So I'm just going to shut that down, and I'm going to come out of Excel totally, and I'm going to go through what would be a good idea to see on the screen before you really get going. So here we are. At the top of the screen, we've actually got a tab which you head for, which is probably says what it does on the tin, but it's mailings. And the first thing you do is you actually have to start the mail merge. And I prefer to do it this way. If you go and click that button and you go to the bottom of that list and you open the step-by-step mail merge wizard, what this will do is it will give you 6 steps that will keep you on the straight and narrow, and you can go backwards and forwards along these 6 steps if you make mistakes. So it's a really nice way to actually start the process. So I'm just going to fire that, and something will appear on the right hand side, as you can see. And the first step, it says so down here, we're on step 1 of 6, and we're about to select the sort of document that we're going to create. For starters, we're going to go, imagine that we're having a letter. So if it's a letter, we will want a name and address up here, and we'll need dear, what's your name, and blah, 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 and here we go. So I'm quite happy that with the default choice, and I'm actually going to move on and start my letter. Now, at this point, what do you want to do? Do you want to use an existing document, or do you want to start afresh? Well, I thought for the first one it would be a good idea if we started totally afresh. So I'm going to use this current blank piece of paper and carry on. And as you notice down here, I could actually go back and change my mind as to what I did on step 1. But no, I'm going to move on to step 3. So, having typed up the information, I've actually got to get my recipients, the data, from the Excel spreadsheet. So, where is it? Well, it's already existing. But notice you can actually start a new list if you wish. I prefer, as I said before, to have it ready typed using Excel. And by the way, if you want a new field at any time on that database, you can add to it, and Word won't, as long as you don't make any changes to, if you've already used the data file, as long as you don't make any changes to the headings at the top of the existing columns, you won't have any problems. But you can put fresh columns into the data if you want to. Now I need to go and get it. So as you can see here, there's a browse button. I'm going to go and get it, and I need to know where it is. Luckily, I think I've got it on my on my, I copy pasted it because I sometimes can't get to the blessed thing. Oops, better find it then, do it properly. So it's in training, it's in webinars, it's today's webinar, and it's here. What the wizard does is it detects the names of the tabs on the spreadsheet. Now, I didn't point it out to you, but the spreadsheet tab had got a name which was called merge data. I might have just left it saying sheet 1 or sheet 2 or sheet 3, but if you give it something more meaningful, then you'll find your way better, as you can imagine. So I'm going to click OK. And it brings up, I don't know whether you remember some of the names on what you saw in the Excel spreadsheet, but here they are again, but you're looking at them through the eyes of Word itself. And the top one was Tim Granos. I'll come back to this and say more about the ticks and whatever, but remember the fields. It's picked the field names up, look. Last name, first name, company, address 1, etc. There is the email address and there's the destination fields that were there before. So I'm just going to click OK because I'm happy now that I'm connecting fine with my database. So here we go. And it tells you here that you've connected to the merge data sheet in that spreadsheet. So in that workbook. So we're quite happy now to move on to step 4, which is writing my letter. Now, despite what it says there, I usually do this totally from scratch. So what do we need to do? Sometimes for people who have never really done a lot of mail merging, I say to them, type out your letter in full and print it out, and then with a highlighter, highlight the bits of the printed version that are variable. And then that will give you some idea of what goes where. So what do we need up here? We need the address. Up here on the toolbar, there is on the ribbon rather, there is a button that says insert a merge field. Now when you click that down, you'll see it's collected together all the headings from the top of your spreadsheet as a grabbable list. So what do I need to say first? I need to say the person's first name, and then you follow that with natural typing. Now you actually need to put a space between the first name and the last name, so that's what I've done. Then I want to go on to line 2, natural typing. What do I want next? I want the company name, natural typing, new line. Then I'd want the address, 1, street name in other words, natural typing. Then I want the person's town, natural typing. Then I want the postcode, natural typing. And then I'd probably put in a date. That's off a different tab, so I insert a date and time. And if you want it to be variable and not just say Monday the 14th of December, but you actually want it to be the date that you do the printing, then make sure you've got the update automatically option ticked. So I'm just going to insert that as a date. New line, and now I want to say Dear Tim for the first person, so it would be Dear, back to the Mailings tab and insert that person's first name. So I've got my salutation in, and then you put in some typing. Now this, I'm imagining I've sent people on a trip, so I'm going to say thank you for booking on the trip to, and then, oh, spelling mistake there, but never mind, we'll correct that. Right click, trip. Where was I going to send the first person? Basically, I was going to send them to a destination, so that was the reason for that field. Put in a full stop at that, and then I'm just going to say blah blah blah. Regards, Les. Obviously, you go to town with the typing up. Now, this is your main document. So, what you do is save it. I'm going to save it as my thank you letter. And what the saving has actually done is it's saved this main document and its connection to the data source that it was in the Excel spreadsheet. And if I close that down, which I'm going to do now, and I open it up again, here it is, my thank you letter. What it will do is it'll say it's going to connect to a data selected from the merged data sheet in that spreadsheet. So are you happy really? And the answer is yes. If you're not happy, then you can connect to a different one, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But I just want you to see that it does remember the connection that you've made to the main document, between the main document, sorry, and the data source. So here we go. So it's come back, and notice that when you click on these are actually called fields, and when you click on them, they actually become live to tell you that they are variable pieces of information. Even the date is variable, because if I open this tomorrow, it'll say Tuesday the 15th of December. Now, well, that's not really that useful, because what you'd like to do is to be able to see the mail merge on the fly. So that is available. If you go back to this ribbon at the top here, there is a great button here which actually says preview the results. So if I click it, I don't know whether you remember, but Tim Granos was in fact the first person. And up here you've got a navigator so that you can actually have a look what the second person's letter looks like. And I don't know whether you noticed, but that one has got 5 lines including the name, and this the letter number 3 has got 4 lines including the name. And that's what Word does. It detects if there's one of those address fields missing, and it just closes up. It would look pretty unprofessional, pretty amateurish if you had a spare line, you know, in between the address block. So it's great that Word closes that block up for you. So I'm just going bonkers going through this list. I'm going on. If I click the last record button, there are 35. I think number 35 was Mr. Nobody, because there's no information on number 35. Anyway, and you can go back to the beginning again if you want to. So that's the basics of how to set up a mail merge. Remember, you've got a main document and you've got a data source. It's great to have this on all the time, so make sure you know about, or you remember about, switching on the mailings ribbon. And make sure you remember that switching on the names, seeing the names on the fly, or just seeing the field names is achieved by switching on and off this button up here. And remember, you can view the remaining letters just by navigating through up here. And that's pretty much it for the letter. I just want to say something about what certain people do. Now, some people print out, some people save all of those letters, and that is pretty much missing the point, because the whole idea of mail merge is not to have a whole host of letters saved onto your computer, but all you need actually is the main document and the data source, because you can always generate one person's letter whenever you want to. If you did want to, though, see all the individual documents, then this button, which is the last on the ribbon here, will give you 3 different possibilities. The first one is what I've just been talking about. Do you want to see everybody's individual letter? And if you click that button, it asks you whether you want to merge all the records or whether you want a selection. You could actually just merge from record number 10 to number 19 if you wanted to, which I'm going to do. And what I'm in here, I don't know whether you can see this, but I'm actually in something called letter 1, which is created from the main document, and there are next page breaks on here, and letter number 2 is on page 2, obviously, and so on and so on. And down here, if I start at number 10, I end up at number 19. Then there are actually 10 letters. So all of those letters are made just so that you can view them. Now, you can either waste that document, which is what I probably would do, or you can use it just for safekeeping, just for the moment. But I certainly wouldn't keep it much longer than, you know, after the real need to keep it has gone past. So all you need is the main document and the data source. I'm not even going to save this, so I'm just going to close this separate file. I'm back to the main document now, and I'm on to this one. You can send the letters to the printer directly without having to preview the individual letters, or you could send this as an email if you wanted to by clicking that button. I'm going to come back to that in a moment, if I may. So I hope that was okay. The basic principle of mail merge, just to sum up, create your data source first and then connect to it afterwards. Don't worry if you haven't got the right number of fields, because as I said before, you can put new fields in, as long as you don't change the name of the field once you've started to use it. That's the best thing. I'm just going to save that now and close it down. And I'm just going to open some prepared documents that will help me explain a few other things. So here we go. This one is an email. It's connected to the same database that I had going before. I'm not seeing the wizard, so I'm just going to ask it to show me the step-by-step wizard. It's come in showing me step 3, but if I go back to previous stages, I'm going to make it an email message. It's now turned it into that sort of beast. And I'm going to move on. No, nothing else to do really, unless I really wanted to change the data source, which I don't. If you want to test out an email, then if I were you, I'd just choose one of the person and see what it looks like. And if you're on Wi-Fi, what I would do is I would actually switch off Wi-Fi briefly while you're testing out the email, and what will happen is that the emails will actually collect in the outbox. I'm just going to do that. Oh no, I better not, because I'm talking to you. I can't actually show you this. I don't really want to send out loads and loads of spurious emails, but what I would do is I'd start the process going with this. What the email does is that is actually the field that was called email in the table in Excel. So you pick up that as your to. For each email, it will gradually work its way down that column and use it as the address for the email. Supplier subject line, I've just made up a silly one here. You can send it to as few or as many as you want, so there, and then you would normally click OK. I assure you that that would work, but I'm not going to click it because I don't want to do it on my computer, and so I'm going to cancel. So sending a multi-merged email is an easy, doable thing. It's just the case that step one needs to be set up as an email, and then when you're ready, get it to send the beast by clicking that button. Okay. Finally, I just want to very quickly set up some labels, and I'm just going to set it up on a new piece of paper. I'm going to do the mailings. I'm going to start my process in the same way as I started before. I actually want address labels, and I'm now going to move on. What sort of labels do I want? Well, my computer is already set up for the sort of email labels that I've used, which is, this is the standard number for, what's the labels called? I can't remember. Avery labels, thank you. For the Avery labels, and it's 7160, and those are 3 across and 7 down. And I'm just going to start the process and use those. It's telling me that this document needs to be rejigged, so here we go. It's now put in 21 boxes for the 21 labels. And what you do is you select the information. It's the same one as before. So I'm going to find it, which is in here. Same beast. I'm clicking OK because everything's happy. And I'm just going to make up my first email. So not my first email, my first label. And here we go very quickly. So it's going to be first name space last name, new line, company, new line. I'm running out of time here.
Don't worry.
Caroline's just about to clobber me.
Not at all.
Town, postcode. And what you do here is you actually make sure that all the labels look the same by clicking this button. It's the pattern that's the same, but obviously you want a different name on the second label, and that's what that little field does there. But notice it's very easily done. All you do is you set up the first label, and then you click this button, and it will update the others to create the other labels. So let's have a look at the preview of the results. There we are, look. 21 labels, all different, all coming from the spreadsheet, and there we are. So I've come to the end of the webinar. So mail merge actually in Word is very flexible. You can do lots of creative things as long as you're creative, I suppose, but some things can be done very simply. All you need is a database, and you need to set up your main document, and you need to remember to switch this on so that you can see the controls that you're after. Don't forget the preview button, and don't forget the navigators. I'll be sending you a crib sheet so that you can have some fun with mail merge. Happy mailing.
Thanks, Les. Do you want to put your contact details up?
Yeah. Should I be able to? There you go. So my email address is les@101systemworks.co.uk. Drop me a line if you got a question, but I think some people have already made.
Yeah, we've got some questions coming through for you. The first one is from Laura. Can you go over again briefly how you change the data source, please?
Okay. So I need to go back to Word. So if you wish to change the data source, you can do it in two ways actually, but the best way is to switch on the wizard so that you can actually see it, and go back to step number 2 and make sure that it's going to work in this document, and then on this move on to step number 3. Have a look at what you're using, and if it's not right, then select a different list, which goes from here. It goes into Explorer and you can find the Excel spreadsheet or the Word document with the table in, whatever. That's the best way to do it. Is that okay?
Perfect, thank you. Next question is from Lee. If you do a mail merge in an email, can you attach a file to the email automatically?
Unfortunately not. Attachments can't be put onto an email document, but what you can do is you can switch off your Wi-Fi and let the documents collect in your outbox. You would then have to put the attachment in one by one, but I did come across on the web something that will allow you to attach files when you actually got the files collected in Outlook. What I'll do is I'll let Caroline know what that is, and I'll pass that on to you. So this little application searches your Outlook and finds out whether there are anything waiting in your outbox, and it allows you to put the same attachment on all of those waiting mails.
Okay, perfect.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
She says yes.
We've got another question from Miles. I always seem to get a paper jam halfway through my printing. What do I do?
Well, if I were you, I'd check what documents have come out, see how far you've got, and then cancel the print from before, go to the printer and cancel the print queue, and then redo the mail merge to the printer, but start at the record that you are your first fresh record, first fresh letter that you're after, bearing in mind how many you've already got. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It does. Thank you. Got another question. Kevin has sent one in, and he says, "Hi Les, will the email work with different email platforms? Standard, I guess, would be Outlook, but how about Gmail?"
It's really geared up to working with Outlook, but if your Gmail account is set up in Outlook, then yes, that would be a doable thing. But it really goes through what's called automation, so that you can connect Word with Outlook. So it's not easy. It's not unless you've got Outlook going, you're a bit stuck.
Okay, great. Thanks again then, Les, for hosting today's webinar. I'll be sending out a copy of the presentation and also Les's full contact details out to you all very shortly. Thank you all for joining us, and Les and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Bye. Thanks.